Hi ladies, Rachel here. I'm just checking in with a quick video on why you should be lifting heavy weights. So I have been in the industry a very long time and I've trained hundreds upon hundreds of women, and one of the primary concerns that I know you ladies have is the fear of lifting weights for getting big and bulky. So in this video, I'm going to address what is true and what is not true, and some of the things that you can do to change your training immediately to therefore change the shape of your body. So first of all, let's look at the benefits of lifting heavier weights. So you're going to lose inches. We all know that a pound of fat looks very different to a pound of muscle. So when you might gain a little bit of weight when you first start resistance training, but remember, a kilo of muscle is spread out all over your body. It's not going to just end up a kilo of muscle on your bicep or a kilo of muscle on your thighs. It's spread all over your body. So just remember that. So overall, the more muscle you have, sometimes the smaller you look. So that's really important to remember. You're going to have improved energy levels, better sleep, decreased stress. You have increased sex drive. Let's be honest, who doesn't want an increased sex drive? Increased confidence and empowerment. There's been lots of studies done to show that women who strength train have better control over their lives in general. So you're going to build sexier curves. Unfortunately, ladies, doing 1,000 reps of workout of a very small dumbbell is not going to change the shape of your body. There is no such thing as toning. Toning is essentially building muscle and losing fat. We don't like the T word. It is a swear word here at Athletic Fox. So we build sexy curves and we lose fat. You're going to have an improved metabolic rate. Excellent. Improved metabolic rate means that you can eat more and you can also have a glass of red wine here or there. Not such a bad deal. You're less breakable. You're less likely when you fall over, when you trip over to break something. Your ligaments, your connective tissue, your bones, they're much stronger. This is especially important as we age. So strength training is very important to women of all ages. I started lifting when I was about 14, when I was at school. And when I was working as a physiotherapist in the UK, we were strength training with some of the older patients in the wards who were 70, 80 years old. We were getting them to do squats, we were getting them to do arm weights, we were getting them to do all sorts of resistance training, and it definitely helps bone density. So let's look at some of the fears that you may be encountering at the moment. One of the most common that I hear nowadays is weight training will make me big and bulky. Generally speaking, this is not true. However, there are perhaps 3 circumstances in which case actually weight training can make you big and bulky. So let's address those. First of all, if you have a genetic disposition to hypertrophy, which means if you are genetically prone to putting on muscle. Now, in the hundreds and hundreds of women that I've trained throughout the years, I've been training myself in the gym since I was 14 years old, and I'm now turning 30, just don't tell anyone that. I have probably only seen about 4 or 5 girls throughout that time who genetically are freaks and they just put on muscle very, very quickly. I don't believe it until I see it, but those people are out there. So if you are one of those people, it just means that we need to modify your sets and your reps. So it doesn't mean that you stop weight training, but it does mean that we need to program for you accordingly. Now, another time where you can put on a lot of muscle through training with weights is if you're purposely training high volume and high intensity. Now, an example of which would be a bodybuilding style program. And this tends to be in girls who have been training for certainly more than about 2 years. Generally before that, girls or women or anyone, any trainees don't generate enough time and attention, or they don't have enough drive, and they can't push themselves to the point where they're actually hitting that intensity and they're hitting the volume that they need to actually substantially put on a lot of muscle. Don't forget to tie in with that, you need to be eating substantial enough calories to put on muscle in the first place. So again, that's very unlikely. I rarely see it in women. And the third case would be if you're using anabolic steroids. Obviously, we've all seen a lot of bodybuilders, and they do use some assistance to put on that much muscle. So, to be fair to those girls, they work just as hard, but they do have assistance. So just don't be afraid of putting on muscle if you're just a recreational gym user. Second excuse I hear all the time is, I'm toning and I want to build, but I don't want to build muscle, so therefore I'm using high reps. I'll tell you now, like I said before, high reps will not cause physiological change in the body. That means you will not be building sexy curves. You will not be building a bubble butt. And really, you're not going to be losing much fat either. And you're certainly not going to be doing that T word, toning. Seriously, toning is bullshit. All it means is putting on muscle and losing fat. So let's stop using that hideous word. Second of all, women can actually tolerate very high intensity and high volume training. But if we go back to the point before, it's important that we don't overtrain or isolate muscle groups. So when we talk about high volume and high intensity training with women, we tend to go for more the bigger compound movements, which are bigger bang for your buck, bigger caloric burn, and therefore you burn more fat over the course of the day as well. So by that, we're talking about squatting, deadlifting, chin-ups or lat pull-downs, all sorts of pressing movements. So it can be flat dumbbell pressing, bench pressing, and overhead pressing. They tend to be the real big bang for your buck exercises over something like repetitive bicep curls, repetitive lateral raises, or, for example, leg extensions. So loading is also required for the adaptations to bone, muscle, tendons, ligaments, and cartilage. And if we go back to where we were before, looking at the benefits of strength training, for healthy bones, you really need to to stress them. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Thank you, Einstein. So it's really important to really push yourself every gym session and push yourself every time that you lift to try and get that change. So really, if you're doing 1,000 reps of workout, okay, a couple of hundred reps of workout, you're wasting your time. I will tell you straight, you are flat out wasting your time. You will certainly see no curves, no lines, no cuts, and certainly no booty. Boo-hoo, that is not what we want to happen. We are changing the shape of your body. I don't care how small you are, if you are still skinny fat, I can guarantee you're probably not going to be happy because you want a tight body. And that the only way that you're going to get that is through heavy resistance training. Now, another concern that I get addressed with quite a lot is, will I get injured if I lift heavy weights? This usually comes from a fear of injury, a lack of skill, or a lack of coordination. So yes, absolutely, technique and exercise progression is critical. If you are brand new to the gym, we start you basically body weight squatting. Make sure that you're strong with your body weight only before we add in additional resistance or additional load. So, this video is going out to the girls who are already sort of dabbling and lifting weights, but they're not quite lifting heavy enough. So ladies, let's look at some of the best ways how you can start introducing heavier lifting into your training program. Let's just first of all quickly look at hormones. So as a woman, we have less free testosterone than men. This means that it's not as easy for us to build muscle. To be honest, I think that's pretty unfortunate. I think guys have got it pretty easy. So therefore, we must use what we have. When we strength train, we also get a boost in growth hormone. This is great because it's fat burning and it's anti-aging. Bang for your buck. Less fat and less wrinkles results. So how heavy should you be lifting? First of all, stop. Just stop the 1,000 rep workouts. It is not doing you any favors whatsoever. So let me suggest that if you're, for example, doing 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps at the moment, you need to pick a weight that you can do for either 6 reps, 8 reps, or 10 reps. It's up to you. And you need to make sure that you can only barely lift that amount of reps. So say, for example, you're doing an overhead press or shoulder press. So you want to pick a weight that you can barely do for 8 reps. You just get the 8th rep out. If you can do 9 reps, the weight's too light. If you can do 6 reps, the weight is probably too heavy for that particular exercise. So what we want to do is aim for 4 sets, resting 45 seconds to 60 seconds in between each set. This will give you a new physiological response that your body's not used to. You will feel very different when you train this way. You will also get a burn in your muscles if you're slow enough. This is called time and attention. So it's really important not to just bang out the weights as quick as you can, but you're pushing up really fast and you're lowering the weight nice and slow and under control. So what are the best exercises for developing a sexy female body? First of all, if we look down here, these are probably my top 6. So we've got squatting, so that's all forms of squatting, deadlifting, all forms of deadlifting, overhead pressing, chin-ups or lat pull-downs, any rowing and any pressing movements. Of course, I'm a massive fan of sprinting as well. That's not exactly a heavy resistance exercise, but it is very demanding on a body. So ladies, there you have it. We've covered lots of information today. We've covered the myths, and we've covered some things that you can implement into your training immediately, straight away. So that's all for today. I will see you at the squat rack.